What is up, everybody? This is Jake Rowe, with me, Rusty Mansell, and this is the post-game show with DawgsHQ. Georgia takes down Marshall 45-7. And Rusty, the best way I can kind of describe this game is Georgia ran a little hot, they ran a little cold, ups and downs, some game one stuff. And I really think that if we start with Gunner Stockton, I think we can say that he looked a little jittery at times, but also made some real good decisions with his legs, and made some good throws on the move, and obviously did enough scoring 4 touchdowns to kind of help Georgia build a lead and get Ryan Puglisi some significant action.
Yeah, I thought Gunner, the positives, those 2 fourth downs with him in the run game. I think he hurts you with his legs when the pocket breaks down. I think he threw a couple of really good balls. There was that middle 8, that Kirby Smart always talks about. That last, 4 or 5 minutes of the first half, first 3 or 4 minutes of the second half is very important. And, you look at those things, they kind of went stale there. And that was something that you want to see. I want to see a few more down the field explosive balls there. But, a couple of times he had pressure in his face. But all in all, for a first start, Gunner was 14 for 24, 190, 2 touchdowns. And, I think it's first game, and you can build with that, and I think that he'll take a lot, because listen, that's a lot today. With I know he started against Notre Dame, and that was a totally different situation. But when you get off the bus and you're the guy, and first time you ever walk in that stadium, and you've been the guy now for 6 months, Jake, it's a little different to think about, and he got that out of the way. Thought he had a good job. I expect him to have a really good game against Austin Peay this week. And nothing that you saw today worries you about Gunner, other than some tip balls. And I've talked about that. That is something that, he's taller than Stetson Bennett. He's a lot taller than Bryce Young. Just at times he has some tip balls. Today he had 2, and it just worries me. Getting a little bit picky there. But I love that he is hard to bring down, man. Runs through arm tackles and in the run game, and those type of things. I love that he got to throw a ball to Zach Branch, basically 2 yards, and a guy took one to the house. And every quarterback loves to have somebody like that. You don't have to force it down the field. You get the ball out in space to your playmaker and let that guy make a play. So a lot of good things there from Gunner. A lot of things they can clean up, a lot of things they can get better at. But overall, good start today for Gunner Stockton and Georgia, scoring 3 out of the first 4 drives with a touchdown. They got a fast start. Good stuff there.
Yeah, made the most of a short field given to them by special teams, and made quick work of it. 3 plays, 20 yards, and a touchdown. I thought there was times when I didn't necessarily think he looked nervous. He just looked amped. He looked really amped, and I thought Georgia could have done a much better job of protecting him early. Marshall was being really aggressive on kind of the earlier downs, and then on kind of passing downs, they were dropping a lot of guys in the coverage and kind of forcing him to check it down. And he took what the defense gave him. Didn't make any big mistakes. But probably, all in all, probably a handful of times, you could go back and watch that game and say, hey, he had this guy open, he had that guy open, and opted for something shorter. But there's a lot worse, I feel like, criticisms you could have of a quarterback in an emotionally charged type environment like that. But the decisions he made on the read option on 4th down, whenever he kind of gave a move, that was a good football play. I mean, that was a really good football play and a good call. I mean, that's something that a lot of people are going to have to work on. And then you saw it again on the touchdown run.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first speed option I think I've seen Georgia run. I think they ran one with DJ Shockley back in 2005. And Quincy Carter used to run it a lot. But that's the first time I'd seen him use it, and that's a really effective 4th down play in that situation. And some people are going to have to spend some time kind of working on that.
That's almost as good as a trick play. I mean, you put it on tape, and not only you put that on tape, you put that on short yardage on 4th down inside the 10 or wherever they were to 15. You have to work on speed option. And, I think Georgia ran that with LSU. I think they ran that with Shotgun at LSU SEC championship game. He scored on that one. You're right, I believe. But, you run that speed option into the boundary there. That is something that will piss off a staff, because they're going to have to spend time not only preparing for that, they're going to have to prepare somebody to give them that look too. So, it doesn't sound like a lot, but the coach in you knows that's just going to piss you off to have to spend time working on that anytime you're going to face Georgia.
A couple of drops in kind of key situations there. Dylan Bell had a second down drop. Uh, um, Lawson Lucky, it wasn't the best thrown ball, but he dropped one right there that would have been a first down that caused Georgia to have to move the sticks. So those things kind of hang around. Getting to the play of the offensive line. I mean, man, I tell you what, I don't know if Stacey Sturles needs to start living right or what, but lost the right side of his offensive line after two drives. Juan Gaston, Kirby Smart says we'll have to have an MRI, and when he says MRI, they're thinking potentially a high ankle sprain. That would not be good, not for him. Bo Hughley came in for Ernest Green there at right tackle. Didn't really give a whole. Said he had some stiffness. Ernest Green did, but I thought Bo Hughley held up really well, and really as Georgia went along, they certainly played better. But one of my predictions, kind of going into this game, Rusty, was that the newness of facing Marshall and kind of and what ultimately amounted to kind of a 3-3-5 type stack defense and a lot of different stunts and blitzes, that Georgia was going to give up some negative plays. They did. Didn't really mash them, run the ball at them. Also didn't really look to me like they committed to doing a whole lot of that either. The game plan seemed to be to make Marshall run a lot. And as you saw, as that game went down and Georgia possessed the football, Marshall wore down. And that's what really allowed Georgia to kind of build a huge lead there. But I thought the offensive line did okay. It certainly come out and dominated type performance. But Gunner made them look better than they were at times by his ability to get away from the rush, which was probably one of the most impressive things I saw from him outside of that 4th and 2 touchdown pass where he looked off the safety and kind of opened up the middle of the field for London Humphreys there after his final touchdown. But I know a lot of people are going to talk about the O-line after that game, and it wasn't perfect, but I thought it was okay. And they clearly got to get better. That's the key to the whole season is Georgia's O-line getting better as the season goes on.
Yeah, they had 488 total yards. They had 240 yards rushing. They averaged over 5 yards a carry. And, there were some things they got to clean up. But, I mean, anytime you can rush for 240 yards and you average over 5 yards a carry, that 5.4 yards a carry, that's kind of the goal there. And you're going to work on that. Listen, Michael Morris, we found out today he's playing with a broke hand already. That's something you and I were waiting to see, and he's in a cast. Your starting right tackle goes down. Maybe your best offensive lineman, you lost him in the second series of the game, and who knows when he's coming back. So, they had some guys they had to plug and place in there, but certainly got some room to improve, and that's something that you want to clean up and get better. But they were playing with a totally new deal there for a while. I guess the only guy basically back last year at that point would have been Monroe Freeland as a full-time starter. And so, listen, no excuses, get better, but let's don't sugarcoat. They had 240 yards rushing today, and that's a good start for Georgia. And clean up some of the things, clean up some of the one-on-ones. They gave up some penetration stuff there, and got in Gunner's face. But other than that, let's go to work this week and see who's healthy, man, and see what they're going to do there. Because, I felt good in the statement that Juan Gaston was the backup tackle at either position. And now, he's not there. And, we don't know the severity. Is he going to be back in a week? Is he going to be back in a month? If he has high ankle and has to have tightrope, you're looking at 3 or 4 or 5 weeks there. You're looking at 4 or 5 weeks if that wind up being the case. Don't know that is the case, but if you get tightrope on a 360-pound guy, it ain't going to be 26 days like Brock Bowers did. I can assure you that. So we'll just see how Georgia does, see what the injury does this week, and see how they change up things and how they may move some bodies around, because they're certainly going to have to make some changes. And listen, the good thing, they got Austin Peay coming up. It's a team they're going to be very much overmatched. This team is not as good as Marshall. So you got time to put some things out and get it right before going to Knoxville for this huge game 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, and you mentioned the rushing stats. One thing I want to point out, Georgia ran it 8 times for 15 yards in the fourth quarter, kind of its number 2 O-line in there. Obviously not ideal, and you want to see them run the ball better than that. So that means the first 3 quarters with kind of your more front-line guys in there, 6.2 a carry for Georgia. They were 36 for 224, which is a real solid output. Now, a lot of that was perimeter run. I thought Dwight Phillips looked awesome. Kirby, really complimented him earlier this week about his vision, and I didn't see him miss a single cut. It seemed like he found daylight every time he was in the game, and that was a positive. Nate Frazier and Chauncey Bowens had some physical runs, even if they weren't able to bust loose with one. And then obviously Gunner really made Marshall pay by trying to crash down, pinch, slant, be really active up front. He pulled a couple and made them pay for it. Rusty, defensively, Georgia should have dominated that game up front, and they did. And I thought outside of maybe 2 or 3 missed tackles, they really tackled well too. And that was a good group of backs, and you could tell that's what Marshall kind of wanted to lean on, because they really tried to run the football. Georgia just wasn't letting it happen.
Yeah, I was extremely excited about Georgia's defense, and I'm not, people are going to say it's just the ones that can find it, a problem with anything. They're going to say it's just Marshall. I don't care. It's still flying around. It's high energy. The front seven was really good. I thought Gabe Harris, the knockback blocks at Gabe Harris, the stats that you don't see with Gabe Harris, number 0. Man, he long arms a tackle. Like, he jacked that kid up 3 or 4 times a day. I know that guy's on a plane back tonight going, man, I don't ever want to see 0 again. I'll be honest with you. And, that's the kind of thing you got to do, set the edge so other guys can play. I thought Raylan Wilson, I was interested. It was interesting, Jake. You'll dig more into it, but there was a time today where they had they had C.J. Allen and Justin Williams in the inbox backers, and they had Raylan Wilson on the edge. And he was coming off like Jalen Walker. And they did it with Chris Cole, too, on 3rd down. But I don't know if I was really anticipating Raylan Wilson to be in that role. Now, they've done it before with a 6'2" backer with Jalen Walker. So I thought Raylan Wilson played really good in space. I thought he closed down. So I have, just keep playing that way with defense. You're going to be fine. I thought they tackled well. Thought they ran to the ball well. Marshall really never got anything going at all. They gave up a couple of plays there on their 2s, but I think that the defense played really good as a whole. And we've talked about it. Is that team loaded with 1st-round draft picks like the last 3? It's not. It's not. It still doesn't mean they can't be good. They got some great potential there. You got to play together. Have to play together as a group. And didn't see anything today that would really worry me, man. And I thought the energy level and tackling, when they go back and watch it, Kirby Smart and Lynn Schumer would be real happy with that.
Second level of defense was really impressive overall. I mean, I noticed Chris Cole, as the game went on, got more reps, kind of rushing off the edge, and was a little bit of a terror there. C.J. Allen was really active. You mentioned Raylan Wilson, and obviously Gabe Harris kind of playing that DN position. Looking at the outside linebackers, Quintavious Johnson got the start. Chris Jones played a lot. Elo Madozi played a lot, and I think we saw some glimpses of why Georgia went after him. I thought he was disruptive, the most disruptive at the outside linebacker position. He ended up with a half tackle for a loss, and really should have had a sack at one point and kind of slipped off of it. But I thought those guys did a good job. The secondary, Rusty, Dalen Everett not in there. He went in pregame warmup, and I got the vibe that they wanted to get through it without him. And it wouldn't shock me if they tried to get through Austin Peay without him. So Daniel Harris and Ellis Robinson get the start. They weren't really tested. But looking at the secondary, I tell you who really did impress me, that was Jonel Aguero. It was clear that Aguero was healthy and ready to play. Yeah. And then early on, it was right away, set the edge on a couple of runs, was real physical. The secondary did not get tested until late, until kind of the young guys got in there with a couple of back shoulder throws. But, man, the secondary really flew around, took some good angles. I saw maybe one missed tackle with that group. Otherwise, it was a really strong performance from the secondary.
Yep, tackled well, and, it all starts up front. You control the line of scrimmage and kept the guys in the pocket, and, it's that's the biggest thing defensively, Jake, was energy. I think flying around and getting off the field on 3rd down, I mean, that was fantastic. That's just something that uncharacteristically last year, they couldn't get off the field on 3rd down, which was shocking. It's something you didn't see a lot. And today, against an opponent that was not at Georgia, I'm sure those kids were loving that, and to able to hit somebody else, and they got off the field. And I'm sure that, as a coach, Kirby Smart and Lynn Schumann and all those guys are going to look at it and go, we got to fix this, we got to fix that, we got to fix this. Well, you do. But the thing they're going to be happiest about is the effort in getting off the field on 3rd down.
Yeah, precisely. And they only gave up 3 out of 15 third downs, which is really strong defensively. I mean, that's 20%. That's about as good as you can do. Georgia was 3 of 3 on fourth down and 9 of 19 on third and fourth down combined. They were 6 of 16 on third down. But listen, this is just the first step. And, as far as the season goes, and Georgia's going to have a lot to clean up. I don't know that we'll know from week 1 to week 2 how much better this team has gotten because they are going to take a step down in competition. But, man, college football was wild today, and it seems like it just keeps getting wilder. I mean, Alabama loses to Florida State. Thomas Castellanos, Waycross native, doubled and tripled down his comments during the preseason and then delivered on those. I can't – he's got to be a big winner from week 1 of college football, that's for sure. This will be interesting.
What's weird about him, not weird, but I mean, I've said it and I think you know it. Georgia recruited him to play running back hard. They begged him to play running back. And kudos to Thomas Castellanos. He stayed with it, and he went to Boston College as a quarterback, and he wanted to play quarterback, and now he's at Florida State playing quarterback. But, Georgia, Dale McGee recruited him really hard to play tailback. And, that guy's something else now with the ball in his hands now. He is hard to deal with. When Florida State needed 5 today, that guy got it. So kudos to them, man. Big win for them. And when you call out Alabama, you better know you better get some, and he backed it up.
Yeah, I think that makes Alabama, since Scalen DeBoer's taken over, 2-5 away from Tuscaloosa, which is it's a tough thing to get into there. But hey, listen, there's this long way to go, as we found out last season. 2 regular season losses does not eliminate you from anything. Getting a bye does not assure you of anything.
Sure.
This is just week 1 of a very, very long college football season. Georgia's off to an ideal start, 1-0. Russ, before we get out of here, I want to shout out our friends over at Sun High. Save 20% with codes DawgsHQ20. Listen, these are elite. They're durable. Lifetime warranty on the frames. Injected polarization so it doesn't delaminate over time. My personal experience with them is I can't hardly fog them up. They are wonderful, wonderful pieces of eyewear. Go check out our friends over at sunhighs.com. And like I said, code DawgsHQ20 will save you 20%. If you get a pair and you like them and you want to buy them for somebody else, use the DawgsHQ20 again. You can do it over again. This thing can be used over and over again. But we appreciate those guys, and we appreciate you guys for watching, for listening. This has been DawgsHQ and the Georgia Show. Post-game show. Georgia beats Marshall 45-7 to start off the 2025 season. We'll catch you again tomorrow night on the Georgia Show. Y'all take it easy.